When philosophers take a coffee break, idly sipping their cappuccinos, they may sometimes reflect how they never expected to study not one, but two Zenos. How do we tell the two Zenos apart? Both blokes with beards, so not a great start, but even though there's so little to gain from staring at their faces, they did at least live in different times and came from different places. Citium, a city in Cyprus, Elea, a colonial zone, a Greek outpost on Italy's coast that sprang up as the empire had grown. Zeno of Elea, Zeno of Citium, the names by which they are known. Zeno of Elea was pre-Socratic, Zeno of Citium 200 years later, and as founder of Stoicism, Zeno of Citium's influence was certainly greater. But Zeno of Elea has in one way achieved a wider fame, thanks to several intriguing paradoxes that bear this Zeno's name. The best known of them features Achilles and a tortoise having a race, where, if given just a tiny head start, the tortoise must come in first place. This shock result, Zeno of Elea informs us happens because, by the time Achilles has sprinted to where the tortoise was, the tortoise, no matter how slowly it goes, will have inched its way ahead, and by the time Achilles gets to that spot, while it won't exactly have sped, the tortoise will have moved forward again, still leading the pacey Greek hero. And ad infinitum, in infinite steps, that gap never gets to zero. So logically, though his lead keeps decreasing up to the finishing line, the tortoise takes the gold medal, with Achilles a fraction behind. Achilles is puzzled, and so are we. How has Zeno outthought us? What has this underdog victory of the tortoise taught us? Zeno's paradoxes, with their unlikely consequences, pit what logic seems to dictate against what we perceive with the senses. For Zeno, the world was one substance, so his paradoxes' conclusions are designed to show that plurality, motion, and change are simply illusions. In another example, he plotted the flight of an arrow shot from a bow, and by slicing time into an infinite number of moments, proceeded to show that the arrow is motionless within each moment, so logically never has moved. Ludicrous though Zeno's paradoxes sound, they're not easily disproved. They also suggest that our faith in reason may need more thinking through. When a step-by-step argument, totally checkable, perfectly logical, faultless, impeccable, leads us to an outcome that's obviously not true. Socrates, Plato, both come and go, and now Zeno of Citium arrives, a once wealthy merchant, then shipwrecked, who miraculously survives, swimming towards Athens' shores, washed up by the stormy sea. Later he stated how fortunate his misfortune had turned out to be, as that twist of fate had driven him into a life of philosophy. In Athens, homeless and penniless, he chanced upon a book that told of the life of Socrates and the singular stance that he took, determined to think for himself and not mindlessly follow the herd. For the newly outcast Zeno of Citium, something inside was stirred. Soon he was following Crates of Thebes, the top cynic of his day, who deliberately lived in poverty, having given his money away. Cynic is Greek for dog-like, but it's not known if this reflects how others viewed their behaviour or more straightforwardly connects to the simple lives they led, rejecting convention in many respects, a provocative nonconformity which extended to open-air sex. The self-conscious Zeno of Citium was more serious than most of this group, and after Crates tried to lighten him up by dousing him in lentil soup, Zeno decided the life of a thinker needn't mean lowering the tone, and after a spell at Plato's academy, set up a school of his own. Stoicism mixes the cynic's desire to be let off the leash and break free with a less confrontational, more reflective perspective on how life should be. Overcoming our own destructive emotions through reason and self-control, autonomous, resilient, engaged, content in a world that's one natural whole. He taught in the Stoa Poikile, Stoa in Greek colonnade, which gave the Stoics their name, as well as a welcome spot in the shade. His philosophies lasted for centuries, and he's not leaving us anytime soon, as in his honour, Zenos the name of a crater on the moon. Paradoxically enough, though Zeno of Citium was the Stoic, it was Zeno of Elea's demise that was the more heroic. Zeno of Citium tripped, breaking his toe, yet the actual cause of his death, out of shock, pain, or stoicism nobody knows, was him stubbornly holding his breath. But 200 years earlier, Zeno of Elea found himself accused of plotting against a dictator, and when interrogated refused to name any co-conspirators. In fact, when the tyrant came near, for him to whisper their names, Zeno sank his teeth into his ear. Ignoring all screams, clenching tight, and putting up such a bloody fight, he wouldn't let go till a sword's fatal blow released his final bite. Philosophy's known other Zenos for sure, but each one was a minor player compared to their illustrious namesakes from Citium and Elea. So when taking a break over tea and cake, or a pizza with hot jalapenos, a philosopher may reflect on one way they can show how much he or she knows by demonstrating the difference between the two leading Zenos. Zeno of Citium, the shipwrecked Stoic, brought up in the school of hard knocks, and Zeno of Elea, ear-chewing purveyor of the paradox.